oversouls, and they make one Christos template in density 4. The 12 cycle goes all the way up. That's how it came down in the first place. What you find in the process of activating DNA to incorporate and integrate your spiritual identity is not only does your consciousness expand, but your body form changes with that expansion. The body forms can hold only so much energy. A human form can hold full 12-dimensional frequencies of energy. That's good. That means it can transmute, it can go undergo these expansions without having to leave association with the physical matter form. There is a point in time where we expand to know, where you say, right now, I know myself as me. When you get to be a 6-strand activated being, you will say, I know myself as they. You realize that right now, not, well, once I did this, and then I did this, then I did this, but right now, I exist in this body form, and this one, 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 and these different time vectors. And it's a knowing that comes. It's not just a thought or something, well, I guess I could believe that. That's where it starts, where the mental body kind of goes, that's new, haven't heard that one. There's a knowing that comes in the emotional body, where you just get this cognition, and it starts to be amusing. You start to have a freedom feeling, because you realize you're getting free from linear time. This is how you progressively work yourself out of thinking linear time is the way time really works. You expand into a space of, I know that right now I'm 12 or 24 or 36 different people down there. And this one's exploring this, and this one's exploring this. It's like being an actor that decides to play at the same time a bunch of characters and takes on different garments for different roles and different plays to learn different things or to express different things. From the soul level of perception, that's what it looks like. To get the soul level of perception in a physical body in density 1, you need to activate 6 strands, not 3. 3 strands of DNA give you something called single vector consciousness. A time vector is a set of repeating patterns of vibration. A vibration that starts here, and it goes through variants of vibration until it comes back to its original point. Everything is built on the science of vibrational mechanics. So time is actually the experience of consciousness moving itself through a set of fixed vibrational variance patterns, a cycle. Planets evolve on large cycles of fixed vibrational variance, but there are time cycles. There are cycles to the evolution of planets. When a being incarnates on a planet, they take on as part of their genetic code, part of their DNA template, that first set of vibrational variances that is the time frame that the planet's in. Then they will have a certain vector, which is a smaller cycle within that larger cycle, that will be the single line vector of time that they will perceive. It's called a time vector. We have time cycles, which govern a whole density level. And within each time cycle, there are 6 what are called time continua, which are smaller cycles, and they govern cycles of evolution on a planetary body. And then there, within the continuum cycles, there are even smaller cycles called time vectors. When incarnations come in, they place themselves in a time vector, one of those specific sets of vibration within a set of vibration within a set of vibration. The process of moving from birth through death is a process of moving your consciousness from a point of its lowest frequency, bringing in more energy and raising the frequency of the consciousness, which gives you the perceptual hologram of moving through moments, forward movement through time and space-time. It's a holographic projection that we're walking around in, but that won't make sense to you until you get 5th or 6th strand activation happening. When you start to go into 4th strand activation, you'll start to play with the concept. And you might even play with it seriously. Oh, cool, I know this is there. How can I reach it? Because I don't feel it yet. I haven't experienced it. The strands, the DNA strand templates, are very important if spirituality is important to you, because it's through the DNA strand templates that your higher dimensional consciousness that holds that cognition has to come into body. There's a structure to the DNA strand templates. DNA templates are built on what are called fire letters. Now, in the Hebrew traditions, they get into the concept of fire letters. And I don't know what the Hebrew teachings are, but I know they came out of the original cloister door tour plates from 248,000 years ago. Fire letters are patterns of frequency, very specific patterns of frequency that are put together in specific ways to form the templates for each DNA strand. With the human template, there are 12 DNA strands. Each strand of DNA holds within it 144 fire letter sequences. They're sequences of these vibrational patterns that hold the form into matter. Each of the 144 fire letter sequences corresponds to dimensional frequencies between here and our Christos template. As we activate DNA, we experience forward movement of our consciousness through time within the vessel that template is in. And as we progressively expand and pick up more of those frequencies in the DNA, activating our templates, we bring in more and more of the consciousness from the higher dimensional fields that's ours, and we progressively change our relationship to space-time. It becomes less and less a real thing to us the further we evolve. And evolution isn't moving from this point to this point to this point. Evolution is standing still and going from here to here to here to here to here. It's all happening in the same space. These are advanced space-time mechanics that the scientists here are just beginning to play with. But the spiritual concepts that we are teaching are built upon the understandings of those advanced concepts of science. Space-time and spirituality and the human body are all connected to each other. You don't have to understand all of the physics of it. You don't have to be a physicist to be able to use your vessel. But it does help to know that there are parts within the vessel that if you can learn to master with your mind, you will be able to accelerate your process of getting those higher levels of consciousness into your body. We talked yesterday about the Kundare, the Kirashe, the Maharata, the Antankarana, all these words that are like, where do they come from? Some of them appear in other spiritual traditions. The word Antankarana has some associations with various different teachings, some of them from the Eastern religions. All the religions came out of the same place originally. It was the same God. They all came out of the records that were given to us 248,000 years ago in the Cloister Duratura plates. So the words, you'll see words similar popping up here and there in different texts. If you remember from yesterday's workshop, when I talk about the Kundare, that is the frequency field of sound, the first individuation of God, God as sound, the consciousness field of what's called the energy matrix. When it is the Kundare, when we refer to it as the Kundare, it is a frequency, a standing frequency of sound, that when the body is opened, the DNA template is open to receive it, that sound frequency can become activated in the body, and along with it, the expansion of consciousness and cognition of at one with Source that goes with it. It goes into the stair-step creation model. I'm trying to help the people, too, that didn't have that model yesterday that we talked about. But basically, you have Source. Within Source, it creates its sound field, the first expression, its sound field. That is the Kundare field. Then from that emerges the first light field, the primal light field. These are consciousness fields, and they're primal life force fields. You have the light field that's called the Kirashe. So at least the people that weren't here yesterday, I want you to know what these words mean. Kundare refers to the primal sound fields of consciousness, and Kirashe refers to the primal light fields of consciousness. Out of those fields of consciousness, when we go into dimensionalization through the Christos template, now this has taken us from the energy matrix. There are 3 levels of the energy matrix. Then what's called the time matrix starts. That's where dimensionalization starts. Dimensions 15, 14, and 13 are the Kirashe, the primal light fields. The primal light fields are the blue light field, the gold light field, and the violet light field. Okay? So these are primary things. If you study any other traditions, you'll find references to the blue flame keepers and the gold flame keepers. This is what they're referring to. From that comes the Christos template at D12. And out of that comes what are called Kundalini life force currents that run through into galaxies and planetary systems, bringing the life force there, bringing the life force, the consciousness currents in there. These are also the currents that create electromagnetism that our scientists are playing with. There's not a difference between the electromagnetic forces and the consciousness forces, because consciousness is energy and energy is consciousness. If we begin to understand the structure of primal order, with the Kundare, the Kirashe light field, the Kundare sound fields, Kirashe light fields, the D12 liquid light template, and then the dimensionalized levels of consciousness, where you get the Antankarana, which is a 9-dimensional pillar of frequency. It's a breakdown of the larger Kirashe above it in dimensions 15, 14, and 13. We begin to understand parts of our body, because these are the life force currents that run through our body, that run through that template of scalar waves that I was talking about. The frequencies of the Kundalini that run through the planet come through the planet up into us, from the base of the spine up to the pineal gland. It gives us the life force currents we have. Right now, out of a possible 12 currents of energy and consciousness that we could have running through our body, we are using 3. There are seals called cranial sacral seals that exist, and they're sets of seals that match each other. Some of them in the tailbone at the base of the spine, and matching ones in the pineal gland in the center of the brain. There are 3 levels of those seals opened that process dimension 1, 2, and 3 frequency. That would be the red, the yellow, and the red, orange, and yellow light spectra. I mean, think of the regular light spectra as we're taught rainbow colors, because that is how the dimensional frequencies are stacked. When we talk about color and dimension, what color is, it's a wavelength. Okay? When we see color, we're actually getting color off perceiving. Our eyes are interacting with a wavelength of energy. So we're talking about wavelengths. Dimensional frequency bands are bands of light that are bands of wavelengths of energy. When we understand these things in Cathara healing, we get into which colors are the primary color wavelength of each of the dimensional bands, and we learn to direct energy. We can direct D10 frequency by knowing what color that is. We can bring that into our body and run it into specific places. So there's very specific correlations. When we incarnate, the way we come into being is we come through. First, we are God, okay? We are one. There's no separation between who we are and who God is. Then we become God as sound, and we become God as light, and we become God as the Christos template, and then we become God as the dimensionalized fields below D12. They're all energy currents of consciousness. There's a process that happens of incarnation where we get into numbers, where I talked about 12 cycles or the 12 clock. If you look at incarnation as a mathematical process, it's a spiritual process that uses the form of mathematics to be able to express itself. So mathematics is really just a form God uses to express a part of his consciousness. The mathematics are base 12 in time matrices. It gives you the ability to have 3-dimensional systems. Creates the 15-dimensional universe. Each group of dimensions is broken in a set of 3, which is 5 3-dimensional systems in a 15-dimensional time matrix. This is the primal order. Our incarnations are structured according to that primal order, where the consciousness comes in as the Kirashe. All right, now you as Brenau, you and God as one as Brenau in D15, 14, and 13. Then you make yourself a smaller portions or express yourself into smaller fields using 12 patterns. And you have Christos templates. And each one of us is connected. Each individual down here is connected to one of those. You come in from D12 and you start to move down into the oversoul fields. So first you become an oversoul, which is an etheric matter density form. And when it's there, it has a form. It will take on a form characteristic to it. Did it incarnate to be a human form, or did it incarnate to be an animal form or something else? That's where you start to get form diversification after you come out of the Christos. Before that, it's just liquid light, then radiation light, then sound. We all share that common, this is me there. But when we get into incarnating, that's when we take on form diversification and become affiliated with a species, a race, a family line. We all have an oversoul matrix out of which our soul matrix came, and a soul matrix out of which we came. Density 3, oversoul, creates a set of 12 souls down in density 2. Density 2, all those 12 souls each create a set of 12 selves in density 1. So there's 144 selves in density 1 that came out of 12 souls. In density 2, that came out of an oversoul in density 3. This is your immediate family of consciousness. You're all connected to this. This means you're not alone here, never were. It's very comforting to realize that you're part of a collective. But you control your part of it, and you can influence and assist the rest of it. The importance in understanding that there is a formula to incarnation becomes a reality for us when we get into things like, well, what does it affect down here, aside from the fact that I have 1,728 of my cells running around that I lost track of, all but one, me. What's important about this? Why do I need to know this? It helps to understand your relationships here, first of all. It helps to understand something that's happening that we talked about yesterday called the twinning. Now, there is something called soul twins. There's also something called oversoul twins and incarnate twins. When we come down, if you can picture, visualize in your mind, a round clock with 12 digits on it, they would represent, if you were a soul, they would represent the 12 incarnate selves that you were going to put down at the same time in the time vectors in density 1 on Earth. The first ones to come in are the 6 and 12 position. They carry the most energy. Out of the 12 comes the 3 position. And at the same time, out of the 6 comes the 9 position. They're known as the 4 faces of the soul. They carry most of the energy of that soul. Then there are the smaller ones that would fill in the numbers between the 12, 6, 3, and 9. And they, if you would draw a line across, you would find, if you take a clock and draw the lines across, they each have a number directly across from them. When you incarnate, you come in, most of the time, half and half. The first time you come in as a soul, and you come into incarnation, the first 2 incarnations placed in time vectors are the 6 and 12 positions. They're the ones that basically direct the rest of the matrix, the rest of your incarnations. And they're the ones you come back around to. You come back into being them to become one, to go back up, to leave density 1, where you don't have to do the cycles of incarnation over and over here again. A soul twin is something different than an incarnate twin. A twin would be, if you are the number 6 incarnate in that group of 12, your twin would be the 12. They are called, they are the primary twins. They are called twin flames, that 6-12 alignment. If you happen to be in your number 4 incarnation now, you would still have a soulmate, but that's different than a twin. It's your twin, but you're not in the 4 primary incarnations yet. You still have some cycles to go to before you get to those. Okay, there's a significance in the number incarnation that you are, and you can find this. You can ask your own higher self to tell you, out of 12, what number is my incarnation? Am I a 6? Am I a 12? One will be male and one will be female. Sometimes certain matrices will do certain changes with that for very specific purposes, but the base pattern of a human imprint is 6 and 12, that one comes in, becomes a 6 and 12 position. One is male, one is female. The 12 is usually male. If that is male, the 3 it creates as female. If the 6 is female, the 9 it creates as male. These become the next set of twins, the 3 and 9. They are placed in different time vectors within the same time cycle. At different times, when it's time for you to go to experience what's called ascension to the next level, which would be density 2. You're going to pass from the physical matter density as you're done with your study down here. You're going to go up into the next level. And this is your way back, working your way back into expanding into source. Density 2 would require you taking all of your cells there, your 12 pattern, pulling it all up back into 1, where it would be 1 there, but then it would open up and become a set of twins there too. All right? So what I'm trying to explain is that we have a part of ourselves in an opposite gender body. That's a gender twin. It's a twin flame. If it happens to be a 6-12 or a 3-9 alignment, they're considered twin flames. If it's some of the others, it's considered a soulmate, which will be, if you run into that person in your time vector, they will be a partner to be with, but it will be a relationship that will move on to the next. It won't be one that lasts, that's like not one of those eternal, forever, married couple kind of thing forever. There's a whole relationship between the way time cycles work on a planet and the time vectors that twins are placed in when they come together. Sometimes you won't meet your twin in a particular lifetime. When it comes to the real twins that aren't just soulmates, they run into each other only at the final end. The 6-12 twins, first you'll have like an incarnation where the 3-9 twin happens. You actually run into your opposite gender twin in the same time vector. And you usually know something's up because it's usually a very strong resonance. What happens with the twins is that 12 pattern that you came in on sets the DNA template. The characteristics that you have will be reflected in the twins. You both have the same DNA template, one in the male and one in the female, which means one is more magnetic and one is more electrical, but they're expressions of the same pattern. So there's a very strong biological resonance between twins. When it comes to the natural cycles of ascension, what normally happens is the time vectors of the planet move in a certain way that twins are brought together when it's the last time, the last incarnation. They're not going to experience any more cycles. They've hit the original vibration that they came in on. And then they come back together. And that's when you have your kind of like, feels like your eternal forever companion, mate person. You just have this charge between you. And it usually works in this time cycle that the male tends to cross first, and then the female catches up with it, and they ascend together when they go up to the next level. It doesn't always go that way, but sometimes it does. Sometimes they go together, which is great. Twins are important because it has to do with the DNA template, which has to do with how energy works in the body. When you put two twins together, when they come together in union, they're able to hold a huge energy field together because it's like having twice the same DNA template. They can bring in twice the amount of frequency. They help each other evolve and expand and bring in the higher consciousness. The reason understanding twins is becoming important is because they're creating an event called the mass twinning event. The Guardian races and the Brennau races and the Ascended Master levels are initiating this on Earth for a very specific reason. We talked about that yesterday, the people that were here. We talked about the fact that the grid speed of this planet, the planetary Templar grid speed, is going to be increased very, very rapidly. It needs to be increased rapidly, or there's going to be a major problem. Because if we don't increase the grid speed rapidly, we're going to not be able to secure stargates that I talked about before, stargates 4 and 5. They're going to be used to try to block the stellar activation cycle that we're in, whether or not we want to be. And if they are blocked, if those gates are blocked, this place will go into pole shift. That's why this intervention has taken place. We talked about how we can make differences in that, and that's why we have these kind of workshops. We're talking about very heavy-duty things. The twinning means we're all getting a buddy, and if at all possible, it's going to be the twin we would normally meet at the end of our incarnational cycle here. If we happen to have avatar contracts where we were supposed to not only activate 3 strands in this cycle, but go into 6 and then 6, 9, and 12 and do our whole avatar thing, that means we're going to have an interesting life experience because we'll go through first combining and meeting our 612 twin for density 1. And then that will run its cycle, and then it will seem to drift apart. And then in the same body, we'll end up finding our density 2 twin. And you'll have another relationship. This is how it would normally work if you're accelerating, but there's a little trick they're adding to this. Then after that, you'd find another one. You'd find your density 3 twin. And each twinning, you would find a deeper level of love and a stronger level of bonding. And each level, for each person, it would begin to open up their consciousness more and more because it's helping to activate the DNA template for both as they go. What is being done on the planet, being issued by the Guardian Legions, that we don't have a choice about? Because, well, if we wanted to have a choice, it would be pretty silly to say, well, no, don't raise the frequency of the grid speed. We'd rather them keep the stargates and let the place go into pole shift. Thank you. Most humans wouldn't feel that way if they understood the choice that was on the table. So the Guardian Legions have taken it upon themselves to intervene on our behalf until we can begin to intervene on our own behalf and understand what's going on. Because they're going to raise the grid speed. Now, this is what's going on. We talked about this yesterday. We talked about the fact that there's one way to resecure Stargates 4 and 5 and get them clear so they don't create pole shift here. And that's to activate prematurely Stargate 6, which has higher frequency than Stargate 5 or 4. And if you run Stargate 6 frequency down through 5 and 4, it will blow any disharmonics out of it, which will realign those. But it will also bring in 6-dimensional frequency into the planetary grids about 5 years faster than it's supposed to be here, which will affect the human DNA template. If this was done without doing anything to assist humans, it would kill humans to have 6-dimensional frequency here on planet this year, and that's when it's coming. So what's being done is the Guardian Legions, through your own avatar templates, through your Christos template, through your oversoul and your soul, all your parts on higher levels agreed to this because they'd like you to survive. They want us all to get through this. They're going to, through the planetary grids, descramble the timelines that have been scrambled, which are vibrational patterns that run through the control when twins run into each other. And they're going to have us come into the same union with, if at all possible, the twin that would be our highest twin that's available. If we can be united with our Maharic twin, which is our avatar twin, that will be done. They can hold huge amounts of frequency together. They can anchor very large Merkaba vehicles called, they each can anchor what's called a Mahanta Merkaba vehicle, which is a 12-dimensional Merkaba vehicle. You put 2 of those together, you have a 24-frequency Merkaba vehicle. You put 3 of those together, and that's the reason for the 3, and you get 36-frequency Merkaba vehicle, which is a huge amount of frequency. I say 3 because when you put 2 together, they have 3 times the power of each alone. There's an exponent thing that happens with the energy. So you bring twins together, and there's the 2. 2 don't become 1, they become 3. There is each separately and individually, and then the they together. And they exist as intensified energy forms. They're doing the mass twinning event through the planetary grids for a very specific reason, for several very specific reasons. One is to protect human beings from the frequencies that are coming in. If you are with your twin, or a person who's very close in DNA template relationship, and you may already be with your twin, by the way. Even if you happen to be married, it may be the person you're married to. If not, you will get assigned your twin on the astral level, which will just mean it will not have a romantic interest type thing. It would be just like having a buddy in energy form that will help you hold a 6-dimensional frequency that's running through the grids. This is going to be done all over, because humans basically would have to activate the sixth DNA strand template to be able to hold 6-dimensional frequency in the body without the body becoming sick and deteriorating and dying more rapidly. We're just working on getting the 4th strand going on the mass level. We're just going into the race evolution cycle where the 3rd strand would naturally evolve and go into 4th strand activation. So the twinning is going to assist to make sure people don't get fried by frequency. This energy is coming into the planet. It starts the first week of January. And it's going to intensify very, very rapidly to the end of 2001. We have till 2001 to get those stargates secured. If they're not secured by then, and the grid speed isn't high enough to create a natural seal, frequency seal, that will block the interdimensional manipulation and will get rid of the manipulation coming through Stargate 4 and 5, they're not going to be able to prevent pole shift between 2003 and 2008. That would be evac plan B. That's what the Guardian Legions are contacting people about. They want to help here. They don't want to have to go to plan B, but they need our help. Our bodies are on planet. The human DNA template is directly connected to the planetary template. When activated, the human DNA template has the ability to run the frequencies of the Kundalini, the Kirashe, and the Kundalini energies of the Antankarana and the Maharata. You can bring the higher frequencies down in through the human DNA template if you open up the human DNA system to the planetary system like it's supposed to be. That's why they're teaching these things. The twinning will also help us to stop earth changes. With this kind of frequency coming through the grids, we're going to get hit with D6 frequency 5 years early. These grids are already starting to creak. You know, look at Popo. Yeah. When a stellar activation cycle happens, a Stargate opening cycle happens, it's like turning on the lights in a house that hasn't had the lights turned on in 40 years. You might have some problems in the circuitry. When you have grid blockages, it makes it much worse. With the twinning event, we will be able to stabilize the grids because we'll each have a buddy. We'll be okay, so we don't end up getting fried frequency-wise and getting sick. And fried means, because things are happening on your template, it means your immune system crashes. Your bones start to get more brittle, and it means the bone marrow starts to change, where things like cancers and heart disease and all those things, the body has a much harder time fighting off. Not to mention microorganisms and diseases built on viruses or bacteria. That's why the twinning is happening. But it also gives a lot of joy. We're getting a buddy, whether we want one or not. But, yeah.
Is this gender twin going to be as conscious and awake as we are?
We hope. We always hope. They will be a reflection. They will be a reflection of your own level. Okay? And you may find in your twin or the buddy that's assigned to you the things that you don't see in yourself yet that need to be, raised to a higher level. So you may get those reflected back to you.
There's a lot of joy.
And you'll do the same to them. But underneath it, there is a bond in the DNA that allows for, even though there may be conflict here, there's some kind of weird understanding between us. You know, we can even fight sometimes, but there's still a love feeling there. There's a thing that happens with twins that's different than your average relationships on the planet. There's much more compatibility of frequency. What love is, in physics terms, in terms of interdimensional physics, is a state of vibrational harmonization. If you have two DNA templates that have very, very different coding and not too much the same, you're going to have all sorts of disharmonic frequencies there. You're going to have a real hard time in that kind of relationship. But if you have DNA codes that are very similar, even if there's some dissimilarity, you will still have all these frequencies that plug in. And when those frequencies in the DNA template plug in between people, be it a twin or even somebody you're talking to, the people you find you like most have DNA that's most similar to yours, okay? Because it allows for open frequency to flow between you, which gives the emotional body a state or a feeling that we identify as the feeling of connection and love and comfort and all of that. Okay? Now, let's see. There's a couple more things I want to get into here before everybody's too tired to listen to me anymore. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. I want to touch on the subject of, I'm going to end this. The most important thing to end this on is going to be manifestation. So that's what I'm going to get to by the end of this. And identifying ourselves as an angelic human, we start to realize things don't happen to us. They're created that way. When we create things from a state of mind where we're not creating consciously, our energies do all sorts of things through our DNA template, and we create messes, and we think something happened. Somebody did something to us. God doesn't like us anymore. Those kind of things. We have the ability to be a creative force in our own lives and to influence what is happening on the planet. So we're going to go into a little bit about our powers of manifestation and getting our mental bodies out of the way of that process. If we're going to be angelic humans, we need to start thinking like angelic humans. Angelic humans, there's one word that doesn't work, is not in the angelic human dictionary, can't. It just doesn't exist there. You know? What do you mean can't? You can manifest anything. You're an aspect of the consciousness of God. God is limitless and has power all over the place. Nothing is impossible. Maybe it won't be easy all the time, but can't just doesn't work. So there's ways to use your conscious mind that you have right now that you can begin to make shifts in your daily life right now that will actually help the planetary shift to happen, to help the grid stabilize and to help depolarize the grids, which is what needs to happen. Space dust, where it had no memory matrix left, so it couldn't even remember itself. We're being asked if we want to participate. 248,000 years ago is the last time that this was put on the table, a ton of bricks on the brain. There's just so many details to the whole picture and what's going on. You know, I walk out of my own workshops kind of going, oh boy, whoa, that was a lot of data. Sometimes it just, there's a lot of data given. You don't have to understand all of it and be able to absorb all of it in one shot. When it comes down to what needs to be done, what can I do, it comes down to the energy work. Understanding, being willing enough to learn about your internal energy systems, which, believe me, will be to your advantage. Once you know how to move chakras and things, and energy in your systems, you start to reclaim your power over what your energy fields are doing. If you feel lousy emotionally, you know how to shift it. You realize, there's a mental body pattern there that's creating a disharmonic in my emotional body. You realize there's a thought there that you have control over changing if you find it, that you can make yourself immediately feel a bit better. Some are harder than others because they go into the karmic template, which is what your cells are doing in other vectors right now. If they're having a bad time, it bleeds through up into your DNA template, and you process some of it. You can learn to block that from happening and help them, but not take on all their nonsense and let it take you down in your life. It's worthwhile learning on a personal level. If we get through the next year, because basically, if Stargate 4 and 5 aren't secured in time for December 2001, something called phase lock happens with the energy spirals that go from the fifth dimensional gate, which is called the Alcyone gate. That is going to begin to phase lock into the D4 solar gate. The D4 solar gate is already phase locked as of January of this year. It's already phase locked into Earth's three-dimensional gate. When the Alcyone gate starts to align its frequencies with the frequencies of gate 4, whoever controls the gates at that point has control of the Templar. Now, if the ones who still have it right now, the Pleiadian Nibiruans from the Council of Nine, if they're continuing to control it by then, they want pole shift to happen because they want to clear the real estate. It's not nice. They know it's not nice. They don't care. We better care. Somebody better care. It's kind of like we can just sit by and pretend, just watch our TVs and pretend this is the only little world in the whole universe and that everything will always be hunky-dory and just okay. America especially. We haven't had any wars on our, like big wars, atom bombs dropped on us or anything. We haven't seen suffering. And we're starting to forget. We're so used to having fancy cars and a lot more money than most other people in other countries have to play with and that kind of thing. We're really spoiled and we're really soft here. Now, my day didn't go well. I'm going to go pout. I don't like that. Americans adopt this thing. We really do. I mean, I notice it in myself. Stop being a baby. Jeez. There's people having a really hard time someplace, and I'm going to complain, about this little thing and that little thing. We can stay in that trap. It's a mind trap. It's a human mind trap, not an angelic mind trap. Or we can just say, there's some part of me that resonates with this. I must remember something. And just rally and start saying, okay, I'm willing to do the work. Part of the work is something you can do for yourself and the planet all at the same time. Get control of what we call the monkey mind. The monkey mind. The way the mind works down here these days is built on, and I use this concept a little differently than some other people do. The monkey mind, I do not attribute to a part of our evolution that stemmed from when we were apes that grew up to be part of our brain here. No, I don't use it that way. The monkey mind is something we've done to ourselves by accepting the concept that we actually evolved from apes. Accepting the concept that we were animals first. Accepting the concept that we were sinful, lowly creatures. We gave ourselves so many excuses to act like animals. It's been wonderful. We had a real field day down here. But we haven't done it consciously from this level, so we haven't had any fun with it. The monkey mind is the part of ourselves that's buying into the propaganda that we've been fed for the last literally 22,500 years before we even realized we existed, as far as our history goes, of believing in our limitedness, in our smallness, in our there's always something bigger and more important that we need to worshipness. This is a thought pattern that was given to us to entertain, and boy, did we entertain ourselves. We bought it hook, line, and sinker. And that's part of the reason why we're still trying to figure out, what is spirituality? Is God real? Is God there? Is there really something there? If God's really there, that when I ask for a new car, why doesn't it come? If God really loved me, why did I get cancer? Why won't God fix it? Sometimes God will. It did my neighbor's. Why did he fix mine? If you get into the monkey mind space, you can have 1 billion questions from now until eternity, and always make sure you never, ever have answers. You will have constantly unanswerable questions because you are looking for the answers for interdimensional questions in a 3-dimensional framework. The monkey mind is a part of ourselves that just bounces around all the time, distracts itself constantly. Oh, let's go to watch this game. Oh, let's go to this vacation. Oh, I have to work. And there's all sorts of things we do to try to distract ourselves from spirituality and from taking that seriously. Gosh, our whole culture in America is built on what can we do to distract ourselves next? Now we have enough money where all of our waking hours aren't having to be dedicated to producing food, let's say, or to making sure there's a roof over our head. We don't have to go find a cave to live in tonight. So, okay, we have all this free time on our hands. What do we do now? Let's go watch a movie, Let's go out and eat. Let's overeat. Why not? We can do that too. Anything. We're in this pattern of distraction where everything becomes more important. You hear people, I love this a lot in the New Age movement. I just wish I could do this, but I never have time to be spiritual. I have my work and I have all this stuff. This has to be done. This has to be done. And boy, can it seem like it. You have bills that have to be paid and you're going to lose your house and end up in a paper bag on the street. That's a scary thought. Yes, indeed. And if you don't work, you won't have that money to pay the rent, so you have a house, so you're not in a paper bag. You get all caught up in this monkey mind survival issue. It's like a Darwinian nightmare that you do to yourself. And we do it because we're programmed to do it. There is a space that's different than that. The angelic mind looks at things differently and recognizes that as a conscious being, it has a choice as to which ideas it will represent. Which ideas it will say, okay, this is the way I say it's real. The angelic mind realizes that every thought it thinks is an energy pattern that goes into the body and creates part of the manifestation template. Your thoughts affect your DNA template. Your DNA template is the structure that throws energy around in very specific ways, that creates the projection of the external hologram that we walk. When you mind control a mass of people, like has been done here, through misinformation for so many generations, you literally have them fence themselves in, like putting an electric fence around themselves, where they can't grow or expand anymore. One of the things we can do for ourselves is to realize our power as a manifester. Now, there's a lot of tricks to that. It's a lot. You can't just say, okay, well, I'm a manifester. I'm a face of God. I will right now manifest myself, let's see, shall it be a Maserati or a Toyota? Poof, there it is. Doesn't work that way down here. Not yet. In the higher dimensional densities, it actually does, where you find thought form, bounces right out into reality. But what happens here is there's a delay process. And your thought form that you're thinking on the three-dimensional level with the conscious mind in 3D gets affected by what programs are in the two-dimensional level of your template and the first-dimensional level of your template. And by the time it pops out somewhere in reality, it usually looks a lot different than what you intended. Sometimes it's directly opposite of what you were trying to make happen. There's a lot of us that hold an idea, we're not supposed to make things happen. We're supposed to just accept what God makes happen. Depends on what God that is. I mean, the God that really created us, that primal, eternal, omnipresent source, wants us to grow up to be like it. Co-creators. It wants to have fun with us. We're you, I'm you, yeah, we can all do this together. It doesn't want to limit your ability. We're supposed to learn how to use our mind to direct energy to create the desired results we want. And we can do this. And there's nothing wrong or ungodly with doing this, as long as we do it with a reverence to that source, into something I call divine right order, which means whatever the original intention of God's creation of this time matrix was, and take it all the way up to the time matrix level, whatever the original intention was for here, and I'm part of this time matrix, and there's an intention for me too, this is how I want to create. I agree to create within divine right order, and I know that Source will help me to create within divine right order. You're not going against the flow of Source. You're not doing anything that's going to cause harm if you're working with the concept of divine right order. Then it comes down to, okay, now I have permission, I've given myself permission, and I've definitely said that I'm not going to be a creator that abuses anybody, and I wouldn't want to have so much power that I could actually abuse somebody and not realize it. Some people block their power right there. I'm afraid to have my power back. Somewhere I know I'm a creator, and I was a part of some kind of really nasty dramas, and I really made stupid choices, and people got hurt, and I feel terribly guilty still. There's a part of us that carries some of that imprint, where we made some bad decisions and political dramas that had to do with terror, and terror almost blew up. That's kind of the scourge of the human DNA imprint. There's some very nasty memories in the DNA imprint where we feel really bad because we made some messes. Forgiveness comes in here. We have to forgive ourselves and say, hey, we'll do better now. You need to entrust yourself with the fact that you have the power to create. These are the things you need to do before the fact. You worry about how do I create. First you have to realize you can and God wants you to. Then you have to give yourself permission and trust yourself and know that you're a divine enough being. You have your Christos template. If you choose to create through your Christos template, you can trust your judgment. You don't have to worry that you're going to mess up. You don't have to worry that you're going to create things that you hate or make a mess of your life when you decided to take it. Instead of just flow with it and let it run over you, you decide to actually try to direct it. Give yourself permission. Know God wants you to. You're supposed to. It's part of our responsibility in becoming conscious co-creators. Then we get into, well, how do we do this? If we're allowed to, and I give myself permission, what do I do next? You realize that every time you think a thought. Now, I'm going to say this over and over because I'm setting an imprint in your mind fields. Every time I think a thought, I create a scalar wave pattern that sets a blueprint for manifestation. Thoughts are things, and there is a scientific reality behind that. You don't have to know the scientific reality to realize that thoughts are things, and they're extremely powerful. How did God create the time matrix and everything in it? He thought it. And I say E, if you notice it. It might have sounded like he, but I want to know when I refer to God, sometimes it comes out as E. It's not a he or a she. I will not say he. I do not refer to a father God. I am not either a feminist that's upset with male God figures. I don't say she either. We end up with an E in those contexts, just so you know. It is a source force power. It is so far beyond polarization and genderization that becomes funny. So when it kind of slips off the tongue, you say, God, he, you say she, and people go, now that's a funny combination. God, she did what? Part of you giggles, like, oh, that'd be nice for a change, But the real important thing about understanding part of the nature of God is realizing it's not male or female. It isn't it, and it is a very sacred word.
Thank you.
Because when you get into genderizing God, gender is created by polarity. God's consciousness, the wholeness of God's consciousness, is unified, not polarized. That's the physics of it. So it is not genderized. So you want to think when you hit those religions or belief systems that are saying, worship He will save me, Father God. You might want to think of the name Anu, because it has to do with the fallen Anu Elohim matrix that decided he was a he and wanted to make sure all the little humans down there, I used to call them puny humans, wanted to worship the good old Father God, that if they were really nice, he'd take care of them, and if not, he'd flatten them. This is where our God concepts came from the old twists and the religious doctrines that were given to us by the fallen angelics who were interested in having this Templar. They wanted Earth's Stargate system. They were pretty good at manifesting what they wanted. They've had control over it for quite a long time. But you know what? We have more ability than they do as manifestors. We have 12 strands, which allows us to have the guide that they don't have anymore because they refuse to have it. It's the Christos template, the original thought that the Brennel created. Actually, God created it through the Janus sound fields, and the Janus created it through the Brennel, and the Brennel created it through the Christos template. We have the Christos. We have our connection to Source available to us if we recognize it's there and begin to open it in our bodies. To manifest something requires a few things. One is a very clear thought. You don't think of what you don't have. You acknowledge a space you want to fill and acknowledge that you have the power to do so. One of the fastest ways to create manifestation is to get yourself into an inner space where you live a little hologram inside your head as if it already was, and then take that outside of your head and act that way all day. And it seems really weird. Well, I know I don't have $1 million in the bank. Pretend you do. Just let the emotional feeling run through you. Get past the block that's stopping you from having that condition. Now, you don't need $1 million. When we come to money, this is the big stumbling block for all the people. There's a lot of good manifestors in the New Age movement, but the one big thing that everybody tends to trip over is, well, why can't I manifest more money? Money is the symbol of power. And if you mistake the power, if you mistake the power for the money, or the money for the power, you don't get it. You need to see that you have the power right now. If you want to go on a vacation to Tahiti, don't have the money. How do I manifest the money? Everybody focuses on making the money happen. Make that money come. The money doesn't come. What you need to focus on is the desired outcome you want. Picture yourself on a beach in Tahiti. Just say, wow, and I have lots of extra power to create other things too. That power could be $1 million in the bank, but it doesn't have to be because I know my Christos self will take care of me. If you realize you have a Christos self and all you need to do is work with that self, it will help you bring in the things you need most. It will also help you to see if you're trying to manifest something that is a distraction or a compensation for something you're feeling lacking that really needs healing, not a distraction, you'll have a hard time manifesting those things. If you work with your Christos self by going into that space that we went into in the meditation, you can manifest anything that would be truly meaningful for you. Some people use manifestation power in a way where they manifest all sorts of stuff. Junk. Sometimes it's expensive junk. Sometimes it's nice junk. It's nice to have, the manifest junk of a nice house. It's wonderful to have a house. I would, if you don't have a house, work on a house if you want one. But some people just use the principle of manifestation to fill their lives with distractions, further distractions from connecting with what Source is and what they're really here to do. That's when manifestation tends to find you have maybe 3 good years and it all blows up in your face and you find yourself bankrupt and out on the street again. Whoops. What happened? Didn't learn a lesson there someplace. I missed something. When we get into manifestation, if we're willing to do it with the cooperation of our Christos self, where not the 3-dimensional ego monkey mind is not running it, but the higher parts of ourselves are running it, co-creating it. If you say, I'd really like a pink car, your Christos self isn't going to say, what are you, nuts? You know, it can be a pink car. That's so stupid. Your Christos self doesn't act like that. It will honor your desires, even if they seem silly and small from that level, because there's something in that pink car that will teach you a lesson or has a value for you. But if you say, I would like that pink car in a way that's perfect for divine right order, and I surrender that. I'm not going to force anything to happen, but here's what I'd like to see. And you make a clear image in your mind, as if it's already there, and say, here, Christos, take this. It's yours. I trust you, that you love me enough to bring this in the best order possible. This is the most powerful way to manifest. It's not using your power to force your manifestations. It's not surrendering your power completely to some other force and hope it manifests it for you. It's saying, I will be a co-creative creator with you, Christos self, that's connected to Source. Co-creation is the key. Another key to manifestation is being able to create a clear image in your mind. The more real you can make a visualization, the more you will be able to put energy into that scalar grid pattern. It looks like a couple of images to you, like a photograph in your mind, but what it really is a pattern of light and sound that will directly affect the template of your body. It will directly affect the DNA and what it throws out into the hologram. Now, if you are a person who has a hard time visualizing, gee, well, other people can, I can't, how come? DNA activation level, visualization ability, and being able to create pictures clearly in your mind and those kind of things come with strand activation. Well, gee, if my strands aren't activated high enough and I can't visualize, I can't manifest. Kind of, but you have conscious control over your DNA strand template. You can begin to learn to expand it. Simple exercises. We have some of them on tape and things. Are simple exercises. These will help you manifest. I can run you through all sorts of them. I could sit here from now until next Tuesday. All sorts of cool techniques to use and that kind of stuff. The whole New Age movement is filled with techniques for everything and anything. Techniques aren't what's most important, though we have them available. What's most important is realizing if you know the principle, the manifestation principle, you are a face of creator. In your reality, in your hologram, you are the writer, the director, and the actor all at the same time. You can begin to take that principle, go into your Christos space and say, okay, what do I want to create? What is the best technique of manifestation? You don't need me to tell you a technique of manifestation. You need your Christos to. Now, I can tell you some to work with, and we will. We'll play with some of them tonight, in fact, at the party probably, in a lighthearted, fun way, because you usually learn more through fun than you do through being talked at. You know? If you want to manifest something, this is a gift that we're being given because we've been patient and willing and sincere enough to listen to a lecture that is based on the Brennau material, who are asking a group of humans if they want to enter the Emerald Covenant enough, if they care enough about human evolution, to actually assert themselves and help them get the grids under safety. They're willing to give us a gift as well. We talked yesterday about the Grail point, and the people who weren't here for when we got into the Templar mechanics, I'll have to give you a real quick rundown. The Grail point, Grail is a word in the original spoken language of the Anahazi from density 4. It translated down here into Grail, okay, or the Holy Grail. It's the one point on the planetary Templar complex. There are 3 points that control the whole scalar grid pattern of the planet in density 1. There are 3 points called signets. They were the sites where the main temples were built, always, in Atlantis and all the other ancient civilizations older than that. Any of them that had the ability to open any part of the Templar and run the energies, and they knew the technologies how to do it. There were 3 central control points, and one out of the 3 was the central control point that you can control the other 2 points from. That point was called the Grail point. It was the one point where it's called the hydroplasmic beam, that D12 frequency beam that's non-polarized. During stellar activation cycles, it would come down into that point, and from there it would polarize out into the other 2 points and then energize the whole grids and start opening stargates all over. The Grail point is the most powerful sacred site on the planet, on any planet. Every planet has a Grail point. It corresponds on a planetary level to that first of the first 8 cells at the base of the spine. It's like that cell for the planet. It's a location. It always stays in the same space in the planetary grids, while the Earth can move, the Earth's shelf can move around it. You know, continents may drift around it and that kind of thing. But it's always in the same space. That space is here, Sarasota, Florida, Siesta Key, a quarter mile off the coast of Siesta Key. It didn't matter much when the Templar wasn't activated, because you couldn't get much out of sacred sites anyway. They only were running on 3D current, and it was all distorted anyway. Now that we are in stellar activation, that site began activation on January 1st and on May 5th. There are 2 levels of it. It is now progressively building to be the most powerful site on the planet. For healing, it holds 12th dimensional frequency, the most powerful frequency you can pull in down here, except for the Kundalini. But you have to pull in the D12 frequency to pull in those sound fields from the Kundalini. If you want a kick in the manifestation grid, where you want some power to manifest with, and the only way you'll be able to do it, see, there's security seals on the Grail point, obviously, because if there weren't high guardian races controlling that and people knew about it, they'd just blow themselves up with it, or the planet, or something. But we're being given the ability that if we want to manifest and amplify our manifestation powers, we have to first show to ourselves that we know how to create a specific thing we want to manifest. Forget the problems. Let the universe work out the details. Your Christos template work out the details. Just show the end result that you want and smile. Ah, I have it. It's there. It's there. Right? We can use the energies from the Grail point to amplify that, literally within the planetary grids, where you not only have your own power to work with as far as bringing a manifestation, you have the planetary energy to work with as well. The planet is very willing to participate in this. Every time a human makes connection with the Grail point, it adds a conduit for more of the higher dimensional frequency to flow down into the planetary grids. The Earth misses us as much as we miss the Earth. There's a definite connection between our consciousness and the energy systems. When we start to access the energy of the Grail point, we start to access real power. If we are willing to go through our Christos template, we can also project our energy over into the Grail point. It's very simple. I'm going to give you the 3 steps to what we did before that took forever that you can actually do in 4 seconds. Okay? I just wanted to show you some of the tour sites along the way when we went the last time. And you can connect that exercise to a place called the Grail point, and it will amplify everything that you are manifesting. There's a lot of different principles of manifestation out there. You could play with some. You could look at other people's work. That's one thing we teach, by the way. We're not one of those, well, we believe this, so don't read anybody else's books. Everybody else is wrong. We don't do that. We say, read everybody's stuff and learn to really feel what feels like truth. Learn to find the greatest stuff in everybody's stuff, and then learn to sense where the distortions are and say, okay, well, I don't need that, but this is good. This works, you know? When we're going to go into manifesting, there's all sorts of books out there. There's a whole bunch of them put out by stuff that's run by draconians, and they're doing, you know, they're playing like, I'm going to be master of the universe games, you know. But they have some good technique if you use it through the Christos template. If you run anything through the Christos template, you clean it. You clear it up. So any type of practices that you may have heard of or know that you're comfortable with as far as, you know, you can just do simply visualization. But some people have, like, candle rituals that they do. I know people that are into, like, Wicca or something. We're not against Wiccan people. I'm not a Wiccan person, but I don't have any judgment against Wiccan people. If they're comfortable with that and they do it through the Christos template, it'll clear up any problems, and they can do the rituals the way they want. The easiest ritual to manifest something is to use your brain, use your mind. Simply visualize it. Take time, go into a space. It also helps to lay down to do it. And usually you fall asleep at first. But you lay down, visualize one very specific area in your life. Do it one at a time. It's easier that way at first. What would I like this to be? Forget how bad it is. What would I like it to be? If you put energy into the picture of, oh, it's so yucky, I'm trying to change this, I have to change this, I have to change this, where are you putting your energy? Are you energizing the pattern that, I have this is what I want, this is what I want, or this is what I want to manifest? Want is another word. I just caught myself with this because it's so easy to do this. Want implies not having yet. I just caught myself with this. It shows how easy that pattern comes up. I'm going to manifest something because I want it, which means I don't have it. which means I'm saying I don't have it and putting energy behind the thought pattern that I don't have it. What am I energizing here? That's right. You're manifesting. You're using your tremendous power to manifest and keep manifesting the condition of want. That's where you go into a space of, it is mine now. I am here and now with it. It is mine. The universe heals all else, and all else falls away. You start to learn to catch your words, like I just did. That was like spontaneous lesson. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Knew that about 6 years ago and forgot it. All right? Your words, how you represent things to yourself, the windows of ideas you put on anything will create the conditions that you're going to have with that. If you put on the words, I want to have money, what the body reads that is make lack of money. Make lack of money, make lack of money, right? You say, I am rich now. I have all sorts of abundance. It's all around me. And it's funny, you go into the New Age movement, we teach like real intellectual stuff compared to a lot of it, but there is some importance to these things. But intellectual people from scientific perspectives usually look at this and say, oh, here we go with the light, love, and clueless people. I am in full abundance. You're sitting on a curb with a tin can. You know what I mean? What do I mean you're in abundance? Sometimes it takes the courage to actually look your reality in the face and realize something. Oh, this is a mess I manifested. I manifested this. Look at the power of manifestation I have. Look at this. I actually manifested no money in my bank account. I actually manifested so much no money in my bank account that I went bankrupt. I really, really took this seriously. I did such a good job of making this scenario. Realize, own it. Nobody did this to you. Conditions didn't do this to you. If we're going to become angelic beings, and we're going to become angelic creators, we have to realize, even on a mass level, this whole drama that's happening with the interdimensional races, it's a very high level of what we're manifesting misery through. But we can change it, not by pretending it's not there. When you go into manifesting, you don't go write checks for $1 million and buy stuff all over the place, knowing you don't have $1 million in the bank, because you're going to find yourself in jail. Okay? That's just stupid. What you do is balance it. You realize that right now I created a condition of this. I created this little hologram. And in that hologram, these are the conditions. I acknowledge the fact that right now in this hologram, there's no money in that bank account. There's these conditions. Yes, I'm getting kicked out of my house tomorrow. I lost my car. My girlfriend left. I mean, what am I trying to create here? Why did I create this? Is a good question to ask. I'm teaching myself something. What am I trying to release or let go? What am I feeling a lack of that I would do this to myself? But you have to bring it home and own it. You have to be responsible. If you're going to be powerful enough to be a creator, you have to be intelligent and mature enough to realize that you are either a creator all the time or never. That means owning the stuff you don't like as well. If we're sitting on a planet that happens to be having people play with its stargates, somehow all of us on a planetary level and a few others have created that illusion. If we want to get out of that illusion, we don't just go, I'm not going to look at it. I pretend it's not there, therefore it goes away right now. Yeah, right. Just like you're not going to get arrested for writing $1 million check on an empty bank account. You know? That's the clueless aspect of the light love movement. There's light, love, and awareness, light, love, and cluelessness. Cluelessness is refusing to face the reality that's before you under the excuse of, I'm a manifester, I'm a face of God, so right now I do not want this to be my reality, so I pretend it isn't. That's not owning your manifestation. If you can look at your life in the sense of, what have I been giving my power to? Who did I think did that to me? Why did I do bankruptcy there? Why did I lose that? Why did that girlfriend leave me? Pretend all of the stuff in your life is just a symbol. They're all symbol forms. All the people you've known, that girlfriend that left you was just a symbol of something from your inner psyche. Look at it that way for a little while. Okay? There's much more than that, of course, but look at it that way for a little while. And so you get the feel for the fact that your mind, your thoughts are like a piece of film running through a movie projector. And you just created a drama for yourself. Detach for a little bit from the emotional content of it. Why would I do that? I created this. You start to find the humor in it. Oh, jeez, I'm really beating up on myself here. You might find patterns like that. What do I feel guilty about? I'm trying to hurt myself. Why am I doing this? I don't have to do this. And you don't always have to identify why you created the mess or how you created it. That can be very complicated. But if you realize that it's yours, any area of your life that you've been putting your power on, well, this happened, so my life is a mess. Or, I can't have this because of this. Okay. That's what the universe says. Okay. You have the power to manifest. It's called the power to decree. I decree this to be, and so it is. Watch what you're decreeing. Watch the thoughts that go through your head. Watch when you get in a grumbly mood, because that's the greatest time, where you can see the spots where you're making messy patterns that you really don't want those things to manifest, but they're sneaking up from the subconscious to do it. These are the tricks, the tools of the trade of manifestation, is getting control of the monkey mind, getting control of and awareness of what thoughts you're allowing to move through your head. You look at something, you can say it's good, bad, or awful. You can say, this is wonderful. I can do something with this, or I can't. I'm devastated. This is horrible. There's something wrong with you, or something wrong with it, or they're bad. You can go into that space. You're going to create a real mess if you do. It's not going to be happy. You're going to feel lousy. Nobody's going to like you much either. You're going to have this vibe in your field. There's an anti-connection vibe. Or you can go around saying, yeah, that earthquake just took out about 10,000 people. You have two reactions, basic reactions. There's a lot of reactions, but two basic ones. Oh, how terrible, isn't it awful? Oh, there seems to be no fairness. Why does God take people before their time? My grandmother would do that one. Yeah, right. God bless her. First of all, God doesn't take anybody before their time. Second of all, you can look at it and say, it's starting. There's a bunch of people whose DNA won't activate fast enough, but they want to get out while those stargates are open. Look at that. 10,000 people went into ascension together, and the earth helped them to do it. Do you see the difference in perspective between that? It's like night and day. Try to feel the difference in yourself of those two concepts. That's a big issue to look at your frames on. If you want to manifest well, look at how your ideas are framing reality for you. What are you saying to yourself about this, whatever this is that you're looking at? And what is that going to create? Realize that this, well, I think it's this. I feel this way about it. There's obviously this condition. That is a belief about the condition. The condition may actually be different. The belief is a filter. You can change that filter and put another one in. Say, what does that one look like? The whole thing may look very different when you look at it that way. When we teach about the stargates and all of those things, and the fact that action needs to be taken here to prevent a pole shift, we are not coming from this is a horrible thing. We've got to hurry. We have no chance to succeed here. We feel the nature of the game. We also know it's very serious when you're in the middle of it. We will walk our manifestations. But we approach it from a space of, well, there's a lot of nonsense that we have to move through here, but it can be really, really easy if we think it can be easy. What if a whole group of us were able to think it could be easy? And what if a whole group of us were just to envision it done? And hold that future probability scalar field for the planet. If we put our energy into two things in any manifestation, energize the heck out of the desired outcome, the picture you want to see, and don't resist the one you don't want to see and pretend it's not there, and do what in the moment, as standing in your power of divine right order of your Christos, what can I do right now with that? That's what we're aiming for. Step by step, you'll be guided into the manifestation of what you want on a personal level or a planetary level. If you want more money, ask yourself, what is it I would do with the money? Because the money is only the power to make something else happen that you're looking for. Do you want more respect in society? Do you want to shelter yourself from the more negative aspects of society? Look at the reason you want money, because that's the thing you're trying to manifest. What's behind that reason? You get hung up on money, and you'll get a lot of angels coming in these days saying, play this lottery, we'll help you win. You play and play, you don't win. It distracts you from the fact that you don't need an angel to give you lottery numbers. You're just telling yourself when you do things like that you don't have the power to do it yourself. And every time you do that, you disempower yourself. So you don't. Yeah.
Excuse me. Wouldn't it be better to say, rather than say one, that I choose to experience this?
That's good.
My goal?
Yep. Yeah, like I said, want is a very easy way to say, well, I want to create this. Want to create and want for are a bit different. Mm-hmm. But want by itself translates into don't have, don't have, don't have. So you're telling yourself to not manifest it, basically. Right. Yeah. So it's better to use other alternatives. I decree is what I like to use.
Yes.
I decree this now. Not with ego, not with arrogance. You don't have to go on a trip. I am a creator. I have power. God, I didn't know it for so many years. Now that I know, I'm going to become a maniac. You don't go into that space. You don't need it. It won't work. You'll find yourself a very frustrated creator. Go into a space of, I decree. Simple little word, decree. I say it is so, and so it is. It's as simple as that. If you realize it's as simple as that. People run into resistance when they do not work with their own Christos template, because it will override. If you're trying to do manifestations that are harming other people or harming yourself or taking you off your path of what you came here to do, that's where people try. Can't manifest. Why won't it manifest? Why won't it manifest? Because it's not in divine right order for you to do that. And if you're willing to be a co-creator with the universe, you'll find out why it wasn't a good idea to have that idea. If we look at most of the things that we want, they're fine. It's okay to want those. Source would want us to have those. Our Christos templates want us to have houses that we're supposed to be comfortable. We don't have to have mansions to prove we're so much better than the neighbor next door. When it gets into that kind of stuff, that's where you teach yourself lessons. You'll end up in the little hovel down on the corner looking at the mansions, you know what I mean? You will learn spiritual principles as you learn to manifest, and your manifestation will become much stronger and much more specific and much more immediate when you are willing to allow the spiritual lessons to be part of it. When you say, okay, what am I manifesting in really? Before you decide to go, okay, we're going to go and just manifest stuff now. Why do I really want this thing? Is it feeding my ego or is it feeding my Christos? Ask yourself that question. Does my ego need this or does my Christos need this? Does my angel self or my human self need this? There's a place where the Christos self takes care of the angel and the human self. It's a game we learn to play with ourselves, manifestation. And now that I told you some of the parameters of the game and some of the things that we tend to move through as far as how to look at things, how to frame things in our minds, how to use our power of decree. What is decree? You can say it out loud. I decree this to be. Sound. You're creating a sound pattern. Sound is the first template. You can do that in your head. You don't hear it out here. You are still making a sound pattern. If you say, I want a car, you won't get one probably. If you say, oh, I'm seeing this beautiful image, I'm driving my car now. Oh, feel this. Feel that steering wheel under my hands. Oh, I wonder if there's anybody around. They won't catch me on a back road. Nobody will catch me when I see how high it'll go when I drive it. You put yourself in the driver's seat of your manifestation. Feel it. Let your emotional body feel it real. Pretend it's now. Pretend it's here. And start to have fun with it. Just imagine if you just felt, I'm going on that vacation tomorrow, and I'm going for a whole year. Look at that. Don't have to go back to work tomorrow, Oh, this is cool. Maybe I'll do this forever. Feel the joy that comes from realizing you can have what you want. Let that happen. That's the power. That's what gets the Kundalini energy moving up into the manifestation template to push it through the DNA out into manifestation. Okay? And there's one way that we can amplify this that has to do with the technique that we did before.
The what?
The technique we did before. Yeah. Now, the technique we did before that took so very long, because we took the long way home, is to take the short way home and just imagine at the base of the spine the silver sphere of energy, the first 8 cells. Put your consciousness in there in whatever form you want. I like to use the body form a lot, a small body, small version of your body as you are now, because it helps the D1 level, your body consciousness, to connect to the whole experience. It makes it more real. But you can use yourself as a spark of light as well. Have the small sphere, the pale silver tube with the rainbow colors going up through it. See it going up through the body and just literally out into the universe. This tube, this like endless tube that just goes out and out. And somewhere at the end of that tube, and it can be close to you, and this will give you an idea. If you do the exercise one day and you feel that as you're moving up, okay, getting closer to the Christos, moving it up into the universe, and you're out, all right, passing Venus, passing Mars, okay, we're going like way out there somewhere. Is it ever there? Where is the end of this tube? You'll get to have a barometer of how far your consciousness is right now in your present mind frame from the vibration of your Christos. Other times, you'll go, okay, bring the tube up. Okay, after it leaves the top of my head, it's going to find where that Christos plane is. Oh, it's right there. How'd that happen? It moved. No, you did. The vibration of your consciousness moved. Your frequency increased. So you will find that the tube is much shorter when your frequency is higher at that moment. And if you find yourself going out on like deep space explorations, you realize that your fields are running a bit low, and it might be a good idea to do some just nurturing meditation work once you get to the Christos, after all that work of getting there, to actually bring more of it with you. So use that as a barometer. So you simply use the tube, the little silver sphere at the base of the spine, tube going up to wherever it needs to stop. The Christos will let you know where it is. And you just kind of project it up and straight. And if it feels like it wants to bend, let it go wherever it wants to go. Watch what it does, because it'll be telling you things, actually, that eventually you'll learn how to translate. It did a loop-de-loop over there. What does that mean? You know, your Christos will talk to you symbolically through the whole experience. Get into that plane. Go up there into that Christos space. Pull yourself up through, like the silver body, like your body getting covered with silver, and you stand up on the plane, and all of a sudden you're like, silver dipped, you know, and you're up there. From that space, first of all, that's where you want to do your visualization for manifestation. You're already putting it into an amped up 12th dimensional frequency. Then, if you want to anchor that D12 frequency right into the Earth's grids, because your manifestation has to be a part of the Earth's time cycle, to have it appear here, from there, as the silver self, this is part of the technique we used last night. Go over and project from the heart chakra of your silver self, wherever that platform is, be it out in space or sitting up here in your head, once you're on the Christos platform, project from the heart chakra of yourself there, a tube of silver light to a silver sphere that's located a quarter mile off the coast of Siesta Key, Florida, which is the Grail point. Imagine the Grail point is another silver sphere of light. There's a point in the Templar complex. Connect the heart chakra of your silver self up there to the Grail point from there. That's important. Don't bring the silver self back in and do it from here. Don't connect from the heart chakra for this exercise here. Do it from the heart chakra of the silver self up on the Christos platform. Make the little bridge like a tunnel of light, a tube of light, and imagine it coming down back into the earth and down into a little silver spot that's deep, 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 deep in the Earth's core, beneath Siesta Key. That's the Grail point. What you're going to do is when you have that built, you're making an energy structure, you're going to hold an image in your mind. An image of exactly what it is you want to create. So when you get up there, you first sit down and think of, okay, what am I creating? Get a good, solid image of that. Ah, yeah, that event just happened. That's right now. Oh, this feels good. I'm right in the middle of it. Remember, that's where you create the thing that you want, but you don't use the word want. The thing that you have, the thing that you decree, create it up there. Once you feel it as reality, you can feel it up there. Yep, someplace this exists. Someplace it truly does. I'm going to make that someplace where I am, down there. Take the image, condense it up into a little ball, and let it be a symbol. Any symbol you want, you can assign to whatever that thing is that you're trying to create. And then in your body up there, in your little silver body, bring the thought from the back of the forehead there, down into the main vertical current to the heart chakra there. Inhale here and push it there, down that silver tube into the Grail point.
Inhale where?
You're doing the inhaling and projecting from the silver self that's already up there, right?
Okay.
So you have the heart chakra link between the silver self heart chakra and the Grail point. Last night we used our heart chakra down here to link with the Grail point to get there. This time we're amplifying the energies in a different way to make manifestation work better. Okay? I mean, different techniques for different reasons. This is good for manifestation, specifically. If you go, don't use this chakra to make the link. That's a different frequency you're entering the Grail on.
Don't use the heart chakra.
On this body.
In the physical body.
Yeah.
Right.
You get yourself up to that platform of the Christos energy. You see your silver self up there. Your silver self has a heart chakra, too.
Right.
Use your silver self heart chakra and create the tube of light from the heart chakra there down into the Grail point. Wherever on the planet you may be, that Grail point is right there. And it's available to anybody. I don't care where you live. Even if you live on the moon, you can aim for the Grail point. You know? And from there, you project the symbol of the image you are trying or desiring to create. And as you do, push it out, send it on its way, and simply give yourself the thought, I decree this to be, so as it is. Decreed, so as it is done. You can speak the words to yourself. I have now created this. I now create this. Whatever this is, you can name it. Naming it helps. I now create... Well, naming it can also get confusing because you can actually put twists into your pattern that you don't want there. Just call it an it. I now decree it. Or this. For now in this exercise, do that. Send it over. I now decree this. It is mine. There's an old gesture from the very ancient angelic days. It was a gesture of reverence and respect and a thank you to the source for allowing us to have the power. And it kind of went, it was a bow, kind of like a simultaneous, and it was a, thank you. You don't have to use the gesture, but the sentiment behind it is saying, thank you, source. I have the power that you have given me, and I will use it well and in your honor, and I thank you. If you send that charge with it, you'll get a lot faster manifestation because it's part of the reverence lesson that creators need to learn. Send it over into the little silver sphere that's the Grail point. Leave it there and just know it's planted in the earth field. And then there's one thing you can do more. You can bring your attention back into your body, come back down from your tube, and you're standing here. And remember, you have a 12-strand DNA template. Somewhere in these diagrams, I'm wrapping right up after this. I know we're probably all ready to fall over. Somewhere in here, there's a diagram of the 12-strand DNA. And I'm going to show you that. This template, all right, this grid here. Now, the little black arrows that are the big dominant ones, you can ignore those. But you could visualize that 12-strand pattern. See how the 12 spokes come out from the center? When you come back in here, aim for putting that, what you just decreed and created, into strand 4 if you want to run into it as you move forward in your time vector. Simply put it into strand 4. Imagine that in your mind's eye. Up here. You know, just basically a hub of a wheel with 12 points coming out. Each one represents a strand. And number them in your mind, 1, 2, 3, 4. Aim for strand 4. Because that's going to be the next reality field you're moving into as your strand 4 activates. Put it a little bit ahead of you so you run into it. Okay? You'll run into your manifestation. The way you would do that is you already left the seed of the symbol over there. Take a replica of that symbol. Hold in mind the diagram of the 12 strand. And put that symbol right at the tip of the 12 strand and of the 4th strand. And let the 4th strand put it where it wants to in there. Because what you're doing is that when you use that 12 strand pattern, by the way, you can also use that to ask your Christos self, connect with the Christos, use that pattern. What level of DNA activation am I on right now? You can answer these questions for yourself. How many strand templates do I have? Am I an indigo child? Do I have 24 to 48? Well, is it 24? Is it 25? Is it 28? How many is it? You know, you can use that image very powerfully because the body responds to that image. The body consciousness will kick up information and put it in that symbol. There's a mathematical code, that diagram, that will allow that information to be accessed and translated back into a way that the three-dimensional mind can interpret it. But when you're doing it for manifestation, if you pick the 4th strand template and put that symbol at the tip and just let it run and place itself wherever it wants to, they go, embedded. You just embedded a manifestation template right directly into your DNA, which is the holographic grid, the movie film that's going to project your hologram. It's also good to ask your Christos first. Use the image, say, what strand activation am I on right now? Everybody has 3 strands. I mean, at first you may get, like, if you see 2 strands activated, you'd be flat. You'd be like a 2-dimensional being you couldn't see here. Okay? We have 3 strands activated. If you start to get kind of like weird stuff, when you start to use a diagram, just say, all right, wait a minute. You have to get used to it first until you get the body, working and responding that way. So if you get some really ridiculous readings, like I have 958 strands activated somehow, just say, all right, we'll do this later. But it's good to ask what level of activation you're on right now, because it changes from day to day. It'll pick up, then drop back a little, then come up a little further, then drop back. If you're manifesting right now, where am I in strand activation right now? And just keep it simple. We have basic 12 strands to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where is it? Okay, I'm on strand 3 today. I'm right on strand 3. Put it in strand 4. If you happen to be having a really high buzzy day and you're on strand 4 activation, put it in strand 5 so you start to run into it. Okay? Put it a strand ahead of the focus you're in. And as your DNA goes into its natural activation cycle, you will start to run into that pattern. You placed it in D5 if you put it in the 5th strand. You placed it in D4 if you put it in the 4th strand. So this is a very specific little twist on where you put manifestation templates if you want to run into them physically. If you use the Grail point to amplify it, and you use what we call that the Beta-Hoover grid, actually, which is a name that refers to a part of the anatomy that's the oversoul level. It's called the Beta-Hoover body. If you use this is actually, usually you can't use this diagram. They usually don't even have this technology until you're in density 2. Beta-Hoover scans are usually done from density 2 or higher. But they're giving us the technology here because at this point, the grids will allow us to bring in enough frequency to run it. Normally, a 3-dimensional mind couldn't run a Beta-Hoover scan, where it just wouldn't pick up anything. But because of the grids and what they're doing now, because we're activating, we're starting to be able to see some of that. You start with the first level, the density 2 level. You can get all sorts of information on your gene code. You can find out if you have Anunnaki coding in there. You can find out if you have Draconian coding in there. And if you do, that's okay. Just realize it leaves you a little more vulnerable to interdimensional manipulation because it's a frequency in your DNA that they can plug into and do something with. All you have to do is run the Maharic energies, the Christos energies, through it, and it'll put it back to where it belongs. Any person, even if they're almost 100% Anunnaki, could do this if they wanted to, if they're in a human body. The human body is the key because it can regenerate the 12-strand pattern. So I think I've probably exhausted everybody. I think we're losing people. I think they're beaming up or something. It's been going on a long time. But I wanted to cover a lot of the data, particularly manifestation. I hope you enjoyed this workshop today. It was kind of interesting trying to blend the people that didn't have yesterday and then the people that did. I hope I was successful in doing that. I hope you enjoyed this. Is there anybody that didn't enjoy this? I mean, I'm not going to be bad. You can tell me. I always try to learn. I'll try to do it better next time. But it means a lot to me that you care enough about this data to listen and to sit there for so long and listen. Tonight we're having our HSP party, Higher Sensory Perception party, for New Year's. It's open to anybody who wants to come, and it's free. We're going to start about 9, but anywhere between 9, 10, and 11 is fine because we ran way over. We're supposed to be done, I think, by around 4 here. We will do some techniques tonight. There's a technique that they're going to have us use to amplify manifestation and to help create all these things that we're trying to do with the grids and the stargates. They're going to ask us to come together and do, it's done. Okay? And they showed me last night how they want to run this particular visualization that's going to be for all of us. And I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I know they want to do it sometime tonight, either, I don't know, before or after midnight, but it'll be hanging around someplace. And then tomorrow in the morning, we've been asked to go down. This is going to be for the people who really, really want to deal with this. This is in the flyers, too. We're going to go down at dawn, down to Siesta Key. And you don't have to come, but if you want to, there's going to be some energy transmissions done that help them begin the twinning. And it will also accelerate that process in your body for the people who are present because you'll get the direct blast of the frequencies. So it'll make that happen faster in your life. It'll come to you more quickly. What time is this? What is the sun doing these days? You know, Michael? Do you have any idea what time the sun rises?
About 7:10, 12 o'clock.
I wish.
About 6?
About 7:10?
I think.
Here?
Before that.